You're watching Man Coverage with Nate Schmidt and James Bonneville on National Streaming Sports.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is January 18th, 2026. This is Man Coverage. I am Knoxville Nate Schmidt, and that is James Bonneville. We are coming at you live. James, how the hell are you?
Better be a crime.
I like it. I like it. We have gotten to the conclusion of the college football 2026 season. Lot to unpack here in 2026. The transfer portal supposedly came to an end on Friday. However, still there's a bunch of guys that haven't signed anywhere. So I'm kind of confused about that. I thought the portal was only open from the 2nd to the 16th, yet some guys have not, declared where they're going yet. So how does that work? I don't know. We have the national championship game. We have new coaches. We're going to talk about all of that today. But we might as well, start right where we are at, which is the final game. We have Miami playing a home game tomorrow night against Indiana. Indiana is a 8.5-point favorite. I don't know if I subscribe to that. But, I do like the Hoosiers. James, what do you think about Miami getting to play a home game? I believe this is their second game they've gotten to play in their home stadium in this playoff. And what do you think about the spread? What do you got going on for tomorrow night's championship game?
Well, first things first, if you wanted to go to the game, and I would be listening a little later on to one of our sponsors to try to get tickets, because I'm hearing tickets are going for on average $4,400 a ticket. Is that what you're hearing?
Yes. In fact, I saw that if you wanted to sit, in between the 40s and, in the lower section, in between the 40s, it's between 13,000 and 34,000 for one ticket. Wow. I mean, I'm glad people want to go. I'm glad that this is a big deal, but what are we doing? I mean, what if you're an Indiana fan who's cheered for their football team for years? You want to go watch them play in the pinnacle game of the sport. You have to, take out a reverse mortgage on your home.
Pretty much. And that's the part, is Indiana's the favorite team. Indiana's the number one team. And they're playing against a team in their home stadium, a team that has won 3 national championships in their home stadium. In 1983 against Nebraska, in 87 against Oklahoma, and in 91 against the Colorado Buffaloes and Darian Hagan. And now they get it again. And I really feel bad for the Hoosiers, because like them or dislike them, this is a hell of a story. This is this is what college football, college sports is all about. Let's be honest. When you look at March Madness, you kind of cheer for those upsets because they're awesome to see how people excited they are. And now Indiana's got another uphill climb to go. I was a little shocked to see the spread, but I'm not going to lie. It just seems like Cignetti's got that freaking rabbit's foot going for him right now. And if you had to put a gun to my head, do I think they're going to beat the spread? No. But do I think they're going to win? Yeah, I do. They just, just like Cignetti says, he wins. Google him.
Yeah, no, he does. He certainly does. And, I like Mike Shanahan, no relation to the coach of the Broncos, Mike Shanahan, right? They're not related.
Not related. I thought they were, and they're not.
No.
Yeah.
No. But I did not. I mean, I thought they were too until I looked into it, but I don't believe they are. But he knows that everything starts with Miami's defensive line. I mean, if Miami's going to have any chance of beating Indiana, they're going to have to get to Mendoza. They're going to have to cause turnovers. They're going to have sacks. They're going to have to be in his face all day. And, the one place I could see this being a potential issue is Indiana's right tackle position. They have switched out their starter there within 3 different guys. None of them have been overly productive. That's why they keep changing based on who they're playing and what they're trying to do. What do you think about that matchup, James, with the Indiana O-line versus obviously the very talented Miami D-line?
I think the hard part for Indiana to win this game, I think they cannot have long developed plays. And they've got to win on first down. And you look at the strength of that offensive line, it's Pat Coogan in that interior offensive line. I think Black and Hemby really have got to, and Mendoza have got to pick up those yards, especially on first down, to constantly put them in 3rd and short. I think getting the edge, especially on the right side, is going to be tough. You saw Ohio State struggle with that in their game. But if you can pound the interior and create short passing games to have that longer one, it comes every once in a while, I think Indiana can do it. They're very disciplined. And then play the field position game, because defensively, we know the Hoosiers can get after it. And we've seen Carson Beck before. Once he gets a little bit of pressure, curls up in the fetal position, and somehow interceptions just magically appear. So it's not like it hasn't happened before. So we'll see. I mean, the matchup I'm really looking forward to seeing is how Miami's going to handle Surratt. I don't think people talk about him as much as they should. He is a very, very good receiver.
I agree. I like Surratt. I like Omar Cooper.
Yeah.
I like Charlie Becker. EJ Williams has made some good plays. I mean, it's not like the Hoosiers just have one, wide receiver. I like all of their wide receivers, and I think they're a very good group. And then I like, they have 2 good running backs in Black and Hemby. So Indiana doesn't like set up the pass with the run or set up the run with the pass. They kind of do both pretty well.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we'll see is a good dose of that. And then obviously Shanahan mentioned, they're going to have a moving pocket. They're going to have a quick game. They're going to have RPOs. They're going to do a lot of things to try and keep these guys off balance. This coaching staff for Indiana, they're not morons, okay? And let's be honest, they've gone through the gauntlet. If you go back to their Big Ten championship, they played Ohio State. Then they got into the playoff, and they've played some good teams in the playoff and beat them all. So I think we need to give them credit for what they've done. This isn't a team that just was gifted the national championship here. They've gotten it done, and they've made their way. I want to ask you too about Toney. Obviously, Malachi Toney, to me, he is he's their playmaker on offense.
Yeah.
How does Indiana shut him down? Because I know that a lot of these teams have thought, let's take away Toney and make someone else beat us. I think each of these teams have tried to do that, but yet no one really has. Can Indiana do that? Can they shut him down?
It's funny. I go back and forth on this one because this is a thought process I had like 2 weeks ago before the game, thinking of this matchup. And I go back to Pons, the cornerback from Indiana. And look at what he did with Jeremiah Smith. Now, Jeremiah Smith is a completely different receiver, and I would take Jeremiah Smith 7 ways come Sunday over Malachi Toney. But he's built differently. He's longer. He's built more like Megatron, where you look at Malachi Toney, he's a smaller, quicker receiver. I don't know if Pons is going up against somebody like that, but honestly, I like Pons, and they're going to probably roll coverage on top of him too as well to help it out. But Pons, I mean, I'm looking at Pons right now as a first-round cornerback in this upcoming draft. I mean, what are your thoughts?
I am too. I don't know how you could watch Indiana play and not think that this guy is not a first-round talent. He's answered the bell every single time. As you mentioned, he's shut down for the most part. I mean,
Yeah,
Smith still got his stats, but he didn't, change the game and
he
have
wasn't
that big
earth-shattering.
play.
Yeah, he wasn't
Correct.
earth-shattering. Yeah,
He did a good job on him. He did a good job, and he was lined up on Carnell Tate as well some.
Yeah,
And did a very good job. And Tony, you gotta understand, Tony's got almost 100 catches on the season.
yeah,
He's a true freshman. He's got over 1,000 yards. He has 9 touchdowns receiving. He's got had some good plays running, which he did against Texas A&M. He ran the ball in to win the game on a reverse. This guy can do it all, and I think Miami's going to try and get him the ball in space. A lot of Carson Beck's throws are behind the line of scrimmage or within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. We've seen that all year long. And to me, that could be a problem against this Indiana team because they are relentless. They get into the backfield. I just don't know if that short passing game shit is going to work, James.
Well, I go back to Fisher. I think Aiden Fisher, and granted, you're going to laugh at me when I say this comparison because it's a little lunatic-ish, but he reminds me a lot of Luke Kuechly when Luke Kuechly played at Boston College.
I like it.
I mean, granted, Luke Kuechly is probably one of the top 10 greatest linebackers of all time.
Correct.
And I hate putting those comparisons, but honest to God, you look at this kid sideline to sideline, but I think the bigger deal with those short passes is the interior of that offensive. I mean, their interior running game of Miami. If Fisher and those linebackers and D tackles can collapse it and get 1 or 2 yards, stopping both Fletcher and Brown. Everybody just keeps talking about Mark Fletcher. Shamar Brown ran over 1,000 yards at North Dakota State. This kid's a real running back. He just doesn't get the pub yet. He will. If they can stop that running game on first and second down, it's going to force Miami to go vertical rather than horizontal on that passing game, and that's going to help out those safeties and corners even that much more.
Right. And talk to me a little bit about, Indiana's stats, Indiana's defensive stats against the run for this season. They haven't really given up, a ton of yards rushing that I can remember. I mean, I know that Oregon popped that one run on them, but other than that, it wasn't like they just went after them all day and ran the ball. If you're thinking about the team statistics as a whole, I just have to look at the defense of Indiana, being able to do this. I mean, Indiana has scored on the season 42.6 points per game. I mean, that's unbelievable. They have 84 touchdowns. This is a team that's over almost 60% on third down. Obviously Mendoza has had an unbelievable season. He won the Heisman Trophy. He's got almost 3,700 yards, 46 touchdowns passing for the team. And then this team has rushed for over 5 yards a carry all year. But, what I'm talking about now is defensively. Do you think that this team can shut down Miami's run game?
I do. What's funny is we've been talking about the number of points Indiana has scored. This defense is the real bellwether of this team. I mean, how many times have you seen this team set up that offense in short field situations? I mean, starting field position, has there been a game where Indiana hasn't not just beat the opponent, but blown an opponent away? Because if you take 2 or 3 first downs away, hell, it's that much easier to score. And when you have an offense like Indiana's, which is good. Is it on paper the juggernaut you've seen of like, some of the Miami teams or Nebraska teams or Colorado teams in the past? No, it doesn't have that star power. But is it good? Damn straight it's good.
Yeah, and they've, this team is compiled 45 sacks on the year. That's pretty damn good. And, if you go back through it game by game, this team, like I said, the last 3 games they played Ohio State, Alabama, and Oregon. I don't know what else you want to see to prove that Indiana is a damn good football team. And I think they are the best team. I think if they played, Miami 5 times, I think they'd win 4. But, they're just playing once here tomorrow night, and anything can happen in one game. And I think, like I said, if, Bain and company can get home and, cause some turnovers, obviously that's the only real way that I can see Miami winning this game is if Mendoza gets shook. Not that I've seen him shook, but, stranger things have happened. If they can get to him and cause turnovers, that's the only formula I see where, Miami can win this is getting after him. What do you think Miami has to do?
Miami's got to get out ahead. They got to control the tempo. They got to control the game and put Indiana on the defensive, because Indiana, have they at any point all year had to come from behind? They have constantly been the Rocky Balboa, where they've come out with the first punch, that they're going to make it a freaking rock fight from the get-go. If Miami can dictate that and get up on Indiana quick by 2 touchdowns, maybe have a special teams touchdown or a defensive touchdown and get up quick and put Indiana on a defensive, maybe gets Indiana out of their comfort zone and makes them do stuff they don't want to do.
Yeah, they came back a couple of times. They came back obviously against Penn State, which was difficult considering they had to go the length of the field and around a minute with no timeouts, and they did that. So they can come back, but I agree with you. I think that's not where they want to be. They want to be out in front, being able to dictate the pace of the game and certainly do that. But if you look at this Indiana defense as a whole, they've given up 75 yards per game on the season on average, 2.9 per carry. That's pretty amazing. And this isn't a team that gets a whole lot of turnovers. Gets a whole lot of penalties. And they have shown the ability to force some turnovers if they try and throw on them. But I believe that, they'll have them ready. But I do feel like it will be a problem, the fact that, Stephen Daly is still not playing. This guy, You're talking about 19 tackles for loss. You're talking about, I think he had around 6 sacks or something, which they kind of get sacks, they don't rely on just one guy. But this dude is a all Big Ten performer. As I mentioned, led the team with 19 tackles for loss. I do think him not playing will make a difference. Doesn't mean that I think they'll lose, not necessarily, but talk to me about Daly and how, him not playing could be a problem.
Well, you've seen they've had to change up their blitz packages quite a bit. More zone blitzing, rush, odd blitzing, overloading. It's going to be a little different than before. I'm not sure Miami's seen anything like this all year. I think Ohio State would have been, but Ohio State just looked flat in that game. Like, I've never seen Ohio State come out that flat in some time, except maybe that Cotton Bowl against Missouri when, Devin Brown, who's now at Weber State, is the quarterback. By the way, yeah, when I saw he was going to Weber State, I'm like, oh, boy. I guess he's not wearing 33 anymore, too, I'm guessing. But, it is – I think you're going to have to create some different type of pressure because, we've seen it before from Carson Beck. When he gets pressure, he gets scared, and he makes bad decisions. He's done it time and time and time again. Like I still go back to why he didn't go pro a few years back. He would have been a top 5 pick. Take the money and run. But
I do think he's gotten himself back into the NFL draft.
Into
the
absolutely.
first 3 rounds by the way he's played, especially in this playoff. He's thrown for almost 3,600 yards, almost 30 touchdowns. He has thrown 11 interceptions, but if you go back and look at his game log, a lot of those interceptions were in the same game. I mean, if he threw one, they seem to kind of stack up. But this is a guy who's been playing college football since 2021. I don't know if you saw the interview with him this week, but this is the new way of college football. They ask him, how he's managed classes and everything. He's like, classes? He's like, I'm not taking any classes. He's like, I graduated 2 years ago. It's like 2 years ago. What are we talking about here? These guys are professional athletes at this point. And certainly Carson Beck is, because he has played college football for a long time. And that's a good thing for Miami. He's not going to be shook. He can get shook. But if you look back at him playing in his career when he's been a starter, in 2023, he only threw 6 picks. In 2024, he had that kind of up and down season. He threw 12. And then this year he's thrown 11. So that's who he is now. He can – coverage changes, people disguising things, it can throw him off. And if you get pressure on him, it causes an issue, because his first season, he was only sacked 11 times in 2023. 2024, he got sacked 18 times. This year, he's been sacked 17. So I do think he, pressure can cause problems for him. I do think the coaching matchup here, we're talking about Mario Cristobal versus Curt Cignetti. I give the edge to Indiana, James. What do you think about that?
I do too, but I got to give Cristobal credit because, he had a little James Franklin-itis for a long time where, there were games where Mario would kind of screw the pooch, so to speak. There were just these what the hell losses. Hell, he had a couple of them this year. And but I got to give him credit, but at the end of the day, no, I don't disagree with you one bit. Until something tells me different, I'm going to keep pushing my money towards Curt Cignetti over and over and over again. Tell me how he's failed. I think the guy that doesn't get near the credit he deserves is an old friend of his from his high school days. Is his offensive line coach for Mario is a guy named Alex Arabella. He helped develop a tackle you may have heard of called Penei Sewell at Oregon. And when you look at him, you never suspect this guy's an offensive line coach because he's not that big. But this guy has done a hell of a job both at Oregon, Florida International, and now at Miami.
No doubt. And think about this. Let's go back in time with Marty McFly in the DeLorean 2 years ago, before, Cignetti's first game at IU, and try and imagine thinking about Indiana being in the college football championship. James, could anyone have ever imagined Indiana being in the college football playoff 2 years ago? I don't think so. I never would have thought that.
Nate, people still don't freaking believe it. People have a hard time believing that they're the Big Ten champion. This is Indiana, where football season is like an opening salvo to basketball season. Like, this is basketball country. You don't see a football movie called Hoosiers. It's all about basketball. And they've really, it's sad to say when Indiana is now a football school and Nebraska is now a basketball school.
That's pretty sad. That's pretty sad. You got to think, Indiana started playing football in Bloomington in 1899. They've played 127 seasons. In 127 seasons, they have been ranked in the AP poll 7 times in the final poll, James. 7 times out of 127 years did they finish the year ranked. I mean, they're 3-10 in bowl games. They've won 3 Big Ten championships in 127 seasons. This is one of, if not the most losing program in all of college football. And here they are. They're number 1. I mean, think about the year before Curt Cignetti got there in 2023. They were 3-9. The year before, under Tom Allen, they were 4-8. The year before, in 2021, they were 2-10. And we were talking about how good of a job Tom Allen was doing because he started off, 5-7, 5-7, 8-5, 6-2. And we were all talking about what a great job you did. I was talking about what a great job he was doing. And then he went 2-10, 4-8, 3-9, got fired. And we were like, oh, Indiana's back where they belong. And here we are now in the national championship in Miami with the Heisman Trophy winner, Fernando Mendoza, leading the charge.
There was a good friend of mine. He's now passed, but he was a huge Boston Red Sox fan. And I remember when the Red Sox finally won that first World Series after so many years. And
2004.
He was I've never seen this guy break down crying. Like it was just personal to him. How many of those old codgers from Evansville to Gary, from South Bend down to Nashville, have been hoping and praying one day Indiana can do it? And if they could pull it off tomorrow night, I think you're going to see more cow tipping in Hoosier country than you could ever imagine. And I'd be happy as hell for him. It's stories like this you just got to love about college sports, where the little guy can do it.
I agree. And I think this year, like others, has shown that this 12-team playoff is the way to go. Look at Ohio State last year. I believe they were the 8th seed. Is that correct?
Yeah.
They won it all. Look at this year. Miami was the 10 seed. They squeaked into the field as the last at-large team. They've certainly proven they belong by beating number 7 A&M, number 2 Ohio State, number 6 Ole Miss, and they're in the championship. Think about how many times there were teams, just being a Buckeye fan, where we lost one game and got left out of the 4-team playoff. Think about how many times there have been teams that, are 10-2, 11-1, whatever, getting left out of the, BCS or the 4-team CFP and could have ended up winning it all. As we've proven this past 2 years, James, there's more than just 4 teams that are capable of winning the national championship. And that's one thing that I think this 12-team playoff has proven. And I think the Buckeyes last year and the Hurricanes this year have proven if you could just get in and be, rolling on all cylinders at the right time, you got a chance.
Another thing, and I think you're exactly right, but a thing that people forget about here is we get so wrapped up in the star ratings by 24/7 or whatever sports scouting services out there, ESPN, whoever it is. Look at this Indiana roster. There's a lot of guys, and I mean a lot of guys, that weren't 3 stars. Hell, they weren't even 2 stars. They may have started off on lower level schools. I mean, hell, Fernando Mendoza's first offer was from Yale, and he got a late offer from Cal. So many of these guys came from JMU, Kent State, programs that aren't ballyhooed. And together they came together, and really how much that body developed from the time they're 18 to where they're at today, where they're playing for a national title. How much bodies can change and how much their game can get better over that time period with good nutrition, good coaching, but more importantly, belief and hope. And that's what really these coaches do, is they make these people believe that they could do something that maybe they didn't realize they could do.
Correct. And I think another thing that Curt Cignetti and his staff has proven is that experience is invaluable.
Oh.
These guys on their team have played a lot of football, and some of them are 22, 23 years old. Some of them have played for 2 and 3 teams. But that's what we're talking about here. We brought up earlier, I know he's injured at the current time, but we brought up Hardy, who played at Kent State for 3 years and then has played for Indiana for 2. We talked about Mendoza, who played for Cal for 3 years and now has played for Indiana. These are all guys that have been out there before. And it's just, and we look at Ohio State last year. They were a veteran team with guys that had played 4-5 seasons. And I think a lot of teams have taken notice of that, and they've tried to get older. And I think we're going to see people moving away from just trying to bring in freshmen and start them. I mean, just look at Ohio State, for example, this year. In the portal, they flipped multiple guys from the 2024-2025 class and brought in older guys. The team average actually went up a year and a half just by the transfer portal flip. So it's no secret they wanted to get older, and I think one of the reasons is because of watching this Indiana team. What do you think about that?
Well, it's funny is, do some of these guys have the physical abilities? Absolutely. But it's more than just physical. It's that gray matter between the ears. Do they have the mental capability when there's 3 minutes left in the game and you're on your own 10 and you got to drive down the field? You think a little differently as an 18-year-old versus a 22 or 23-year-old. You're a little more mature. You've seen some stuff. Hell, you got some battle scars. And it's having those type of battle scars helps you be better. I mean, for those people outside of college, I mean, think of when you left college in your business acumen and where you're at today. You're much better. You're much more seasoned. You're much more prepared. And that's exactly what you're seeing. I mean, hell, you look back at 2 great examples I always look at. One is Tom Osborne when he was at Nebraska, and another is Kirk Ferentz. No matter what, if you're an offensive or defensive lineman, unless you were that special, and I mean you had to be super duper 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 special, you got redshirted. Because getting that extra year in the weight room, extra working year with the playbook, getting used to school, that extra year is insane in how much it helps develop you as a person, and it gives you one more year to compete at that level.
Yeah, there's absolutely no doubt about that. And I think that's one of the reasons that teams are, trying to get older right now. They want this experience out there because the experience makes a big difference, especially in these big time games when you've got to win 15, 16 games to get there. You need guys that can do it. So we're going to get into the transfer portal here and talk about where some of these guys, obviously last week we went through our top 10 guys as far as fit goes. And we're going to do a little bit of that now as we talk about some of the guys that have, moved around since we last were here last Sunday. And we're also going to talk about some coaching moves in the last 30 minutes. So stick around.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events with confidence.
All righty then. So now here we are with our transfer portal. It's kind of been a little bit embarrassing as far as some of this portal activity. I guess, James, my first question to you is, how have they allowed this tamper? I mean, Ty Simpson is the best example. He never entered the portal. He chose to go into the draft. He comes out in an interview and says that he was contacted by Ole Miss. He was contacted by Miami. I think there was a third school in there, and was offered over $6.5 million to come back and play. How is he getting offers when he wasn't even in the portal, James? I think that's a pretty good example of tampering. Another guy who wasn't in the portal, who we'll talk about here in a minute, is Darian Mensah from Duke. who they plucked from Tulane, gave a 2-year contract to, and the last day of the portal being open, he jumped in and said that he was leaving. Talk to me about tampering and how this has gone on and how the hell they're going to stop this, because this is ruining, ruining this for everybody.
Well, but Nate, tampering isn't happening. I mean, if it was, somebody would be all over it. I mean, yeah, we all know it's crap. I mean, it's become so much of the wild, wild west that people, college sports and college athletics in general has to look at this and realize that the fan is the one who actually funds this. And the more you start disenfranchising the fan, I mean, TV numbers are going to go down. I mean, if it's just the same old teams over and over every year making it, you're going to start seeing people lose interest. I mean, Indiana making the playoff, I guarantee you the ratings tomorrow night are going to be off the charts because it's Indiana. You know, I guarantee you probably the only places in the country that are not going to be cheering for Indiana is the greater West Lafayette area and the Miami area. Otherwise, the rest of the country is going to be all in on the Hoosiers. But
Yeah.
if you still keep seeing this happen where you can't build a team and then all of a sudden it gets picked apart by tampering, even though you sign contracts. I mean, what's the point in having a contract anymore?
No, that's my exact point. That was, we were talking the other day off air, you and I, and some other folks. And I was asking, what is the point in signing these contracts if they're not worth the paper that they are printed on? And obviously, I'm referring to our boy from Duke. They go out, they hire Manny Diaz, they get Darren Mensah to come in and be their quarterback. He does a fantastic job. They win the ACC, and now he's leaving. And it's like, well, Duke's not going to have you mentioned, no quarterback because this guy's out of town, and they didn't prepare for this because he didn't even enter the portal until the last day. He signed a 2-year deal, and now they're talking about how, Miami, let's just be honest and report what's been reported, that they've offered to buy out his deal. Well, this was an NIL deal that basically said, he would get all this money via, the use of his name, image, and likeness. Well, how can they buy that out? They don't even know what that is. They don't even know what that amount is. I don't understand how they're allowed to buy out these contracts and why these kids aren't allowed to honor these contracts. I think this sucks for Duke.
Oh, not only that, I mean, Henry Bellin IV jumped in the portal after Mensah signed and goes to Missouri State. Now they're left with nothing. I mean, what is there going to be a cornerback going to be working in spring ball with them in Durham? I mean, this whole thing is a mess, and they got to get to a conclusion. I mean, what that is at the end of the day, I don't know. Collective bargaining? I don't know. I mean, because there's nothing. If they don't get a handle on it quick, this could roll off the chains really fast.
Yeah, well, it already has. And this is a major problem. This is a guy who threw Darren Mensah for 3,973 yards, 34 touchdowns, 6 picks. He was a big reason why Duke had the season that they did and why they were able to go in and win the ACC and finish 9-5, with victories over North Carolina, Wake Forest, and Virginia to end the season. A lot of it was due to him. And him being gone is going to be a big problem. And, I get it. He's going to get paid. He's going to go somewhere else. I have no problem with that. What I have a problem with is committing somewhere, taking money, agreeing to come for a period of time, and then just trashing that entire agreement and moving on. Why can't he stay there? He's getting paid good money. He did a good job. They had a 9-5 record. They won the conference. I don't understand why he needs to leave. I don't even want to talk about where he's going because I think it's BS that he's even allowed to leave at this point. So I don't even really want to talk about him much anymore. But I do think that he is a great example of what all is wrong with the transfer portal. Let's talk about another guy in the portal here who is ending up now at LSU. Was ranked the number one portal quarterback. He went, I think, and visited every school that has a large endowment. What do you think about Leavitt going to LSU with Lane Kiffin? And how do you think he fits there with what Lane likes to do on offense?
I think it's a good fit, honestly. I remember Leavitt when he followed Jonathan Smith out to Michigan State. And when he realized that Aiden Childs was going to get the job, he took off and went to Arizona State. But I really saw potential in this guy, and he really showed it with Dillingham in Tempe. Now you put him with even a better quarterback coach in Kiffin. I think there's real possibility there. I mean, granted, I'm not the biggest Kiffin fan for obvious freaking reasons. But I think if you just take away the emotion side of it from a football standpoint, I think this is a really good fit.
Yeah, I mean, I do think he can run Kiffin's offense. My issue is there's going to be a lot of pressure on this program. Okay. Yeah. They're basically have said, I mean, they lost their third game and fired their coach and paid him $50 million to walk away. Now they've paid over $100 million to bring in this new coach and his staff. And who knows how much they've spent on the portal. I can't even comprehend how much money they've spent on the portal. But now LSU is the number one team in the portal with the portal rankings, and they've brought in a butt ton of dudes. I don't know if you've looked at their transfer list. They have a incoming transfer list of 38 guys. That's bonkers to me. 38. I mean, that's half of your scholarship players, and I don't know how you had the money to pay all these guys and pay Kiffin's staff and pay the buyout. I mean, make some sense of this for me, James, because I feel like they've spent like $200 million here in the last 12 months.
I mean, it's like it's a pro payroll now. I mean, This is crazy. I mean, you look at some of the names. I mean, hell, you've got Daugherty, who played for Ole Miss, who was in the freaking playoff. Playoff. I mean, it is Chase Brown, the receiver out of Kansas State, who I think people really are going to get to know more and more next year. I mean, this is a pretty good class, but I mean, it's insane what this has become. I mean, you're bringing that many people in, and it's a complete culture shift than what you've seen in the past, where, hell, 5, 6, 7 years ago, when a new coach came in, hell, you knew 80% of the roster. You just knew the incoming, freshman class. There was still that camaraderie there. Now, hell, the whole team is getting to know each other, and hell, 60% of the team never even took a class at Baton Rouge yet.
No, it's becoming, as we mentioned before, this is basically becoming college basketball now, where every year you've got completely different group of starters, and a lot of these guys, are so different year to year that it's mind blowing. Let's talk about it. Go ahead.
Oh, it was funny getting back to LSU. Outside of the time Nick Saban was there, name me another coach over the last 50 years, even if they won national titles, was not talked about getting fired if they had a sub 3 or 4 loss season. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, guys who have won national titles.
Yeah, they fired Les Miles, who won a national championship. They fired Ed Orgeron after he won the national championship. They fired Brian Kelly, who
played for one
and also had a Heisman Trophy winner. It's not like they were just, chewing rocks down there in Baton Rouge while he was there. They had some decent teams. Were you surprised at all that Brian Kelly didn't get hired? And do you think it was mainly just because of the number, them having to pay on the buyout? Do you think he'll coach again?
I think he'll coach again. I think it more has to do with there's a lot of people that just have a personality problem with Brian Kelly. I truly believe if it's a smart move on his part, he should go back and look in the Midwest. That's where his real strength is, and he's a good coach. I mean, everywhere he's been except LSU, and LSU, it's not like he did bad. He just didn't do the extent that they wanted to, which is the expectations are stupid. It's like national championship or bust.
Yeah,
I mean,
good luck. Good luck with that, Lane. Kiffin's going to have a tough time there because he's going to be expected now to be Alabama or Ohio State or Georgia. You've got to win every single game, or you're going to have to answer for it. Let's talk about your boy Pat Mahomes Jr. here, who chose to leave Nebraska. He decided to go to Oregon, and now it looks like Dante Moore is coming back. First off, kudos to Dante Moore. I think coming back, playing another year of college football is a great move for Dante Moore. I saw things that I liked out of him, but I saw some things I didn't like, and I think another year of starting for a big-time college program is going to help him in his career. Dylan Raiola, how does going to Oregon and being the backup help him, James?
He gets more time with the playbook. I think it's more for Oregon's sake of basically solidifying. They don't have to worry about the portal a year from now, that they're set, that they think. I mean, wouldn't it be hilarious if Dylan Raiola decides to jump in the portal after?
I don't see him. I don't see him staying there. I bet he'll leave.
Well, you know what? I saw this this joke on TV where on Monday Night Football where they have the players say where they went to school, and I'm looking forward from when Dylan Raiola gives his where he went to school, because usually it's just one place or a fictitious place or a preschool. I'm wondering if he's going to go. Dylan Raiola, quarterback, Burleson High School, then in Texas, Pinnacle High School in Arizona, Chandler High School in Arizona, Buford High School in Georgia. I was committed to Ohio State, then I decommitted and went to Georgia. Then I decommitted from there and went to Nebraska. Then for Nebraska, I transferred to Oregon, and there's going to be one more in there. I mean, by the time he's done, they're going to be done with the first freaking drive, and the defensive team's going to already have the freaking football. I mean, At what point? I mean, seriously, grow some roots. Stay somewhere for more than a couple years. Actually get to know the place.
That's my exact issue with all of this is some of these guys are going to a different high school every single year, and then they're going to a different college every single year. As we talked about before, TJ Finley is now on his 7th college program. What are we doing here? I mean, are these guys even unpacking their crap when they get to their luxury condo that they're staying in? I don't know. I don't really think so, because why would you? I would just live out of my suitcase if I'm going somewhere different every single year. It makes no sense. And I feel bad for these kids, actually, because who wants to go to a different high school every single year? Who wants to go to a different college every single year? That sounds absolutely horrible, in my opinion. And I feel bad for these guys having to do it. Let's talk about Deuce. Deuce Knight was a major prospect. He signed at Auburn out of high school, is a big dude, 6'4", 217, out of Lucedale, Mississippi. This kid is, obviously very talented. Now he is going to Ole Miss. What do you think about him, and do you think he wins the job at Ole Miss next year?
I think he does. I feel bad for Pete Golding, but what showed me after this Lane Kiffin kerfuffle is he's really building something there. I mean, this is a team that could have literally laid down and died in the playoffs, and they fought back. They took it personal that their coach left them. I mean, because these guys are taking money to go to a certain school, but they're playing for a coach. And when their coach leaves them, that hurts them personally. I mean, hell, when my brother played for Minnesota, I remember when Lou Holtz left, and my brother was crushed, like honest to God, crushed. And it bothered him for years to this, before he passed. But it is, I think this could really work for Pete Golding and for Deuce Knight. But once again, it's musical chairs. When the music stops, where do we end up?
Yeah, this kid was the 6th rated quarterback coming out of high school. I think he was like the number 50 rated player overall. I don't know if he's ready, but I do think this was a good snag by Ole Miss. Obviously their Trinidad Chambliss is still trying to come back. I don't know if that'll work, but he's trying to. And obviously Simmons left. He's going to Missouri. They've got a Walker Howard who's also transferred in out of from Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns. So they've got a couple of options here at quarterback, but I do think Deuce Knight is probably the most talented one, but we just haven't seen a whole lot of him. I'm not sure if I'd want to hand the reins over to him week 1 and see how that goes without him actually having some playing time. We talked about Missouri. Bo Pribula, your boy, he is now headed to Virginia. Cutter Boley, the kid from Kentucky, is going to Arizona State. Jake Merklinger, the kid from Tennessee, is going to UConn. Jackson Arnold, the former 5-star, is now going to UNLV. Any of those guys stand out to you, and any of them you think making a good choice? I personally like the Pribula to Virginia. I think Virginia's made some really good moves here.
It's funny. If you would have asked me 12 months ago if Tony Elliott would have a job today, I was going to say no, because things were not working out well in Charlottesville. And this year showed me something. I mean, what Chandler Morris did there was pretty damn impressive. And now you bring Pribula in there. And not only Pribula, they're bringing a nice little class in through the transfer portal. And, I think Tony Elliott and Des Kitchens, their offensive coordinator, are really building something where I think you could see them do decently again next year in the ACC. I mean, what are your thoughts?
I agree. I really like the Peyton Lewis pickup as well,
Yes.
The running back from Tennessee, who is also going to Virginia. I love what they did last year, kind of coming out of nowhere and playing really, really well in the ACC. I mean, they were the team to beat in the ACC until obviously, they lost at the end. But I do think, think of where this program was when he got there. And I love the commitment that the university and the administration made to him and let him build his program, because most people don't get that amount of time anymore, James. It's 2-3 years and bust, get the hell out of here. He was allowed to stick around, get his, scheme introduced, get his guys in there. And, we all go back to the shooting that occurred at Virginia where, a lot of guys left, and I don't blame them. I would have wanted to get the hell out of there too. But that program was in a big, big, bad place, and he's transformed it. So very, very, very proud of what he's done. And I think Pribula has shown enough to where I think he's going to be a good fit there. I like the Peyton Lewis. I think Virginia's going to have another good campaign. A couple other guys that we want to talk about before we get into the coaching here, because we need to get to our coaching search. But we got a couple of wide receivers, Quincy Porter and Mylan Graham from Ohio State, that are both going to Notre Dame. DeAndre Moore, the Texas guy, is going to Colorado. And then obviously some running backs. Justice Haynes from Michigan's going to Georgia Tech. And then Jacoby Jackson's going from Florida to Ohio State. Any of those guys jump out to you, James, as far as a good fit or a good move?
I think Jacoby Jackson going to Ohio State would be a nice move, especially him with teaming him with Bo Jackson. I think that's a nice little combination. The one that doesn't make sense is the Justice Haynes one. When I heard that, because it was like it came out right away, and like looks like Georgia Tech's going to get him. Like, he was doing pretty gosh darn well in Ann Arbor. Why would you want to leave that kind of situation with the proven running attack to go to Georgia Tech. I mean, granted, I know he came from Alabama prior, but it didn't make sense. 2 and 2 didn't equal 4 in this one.
No, I agree. I didn't understand that move at all. He was tearing it up this year until he got a little banged up. I thought he would come back to Michigan and have another really good season. Now, they're still pretty stacked at the running back position, so I think maybe that's why he wanted to go and be the guy. I don't know. But I do think this is maybe not the best move for him. But, we're all sitting back and kind of waiting to see where old Jordan Seaton goes. This is another one where the guy entered the portal on the last day, still hasn't announced where he's going. He's still making visits, yet the deadline is come and gone. So I'm very confused how that's allowed. But what do you think about this kid, Jordan Seaton? Do you think he's as good as advertised as far as a left tackle goes based on what you've seen from him his first 2 years at Colorado?
The metrics buy. I would be a buy on him. The question is the heart. Does he have that heart to take it to that next level? Because you look at it, he has the potential of being a very, very special player. How special? I think it comes down to him. And I think him not making a decision is probably a detriment to him. But what he's going to do in the offseason for training, I don't know. I'm not even sure what he's looking for. One more name.
Money.
Well, obviously, yeah. But
what is that going to do? What is some of these kids you give them? His asking price originally was 2.5. I heard that Ohio State offered him 3. I heard that he's gotten offers of $4 million from Texas and LSU. What does that do to a kid that's 19, 20 years old, gets $4 million? Is that going to provide additional motivation or the opposite, James?
At that age, I don't know. Hell, you're making more than your freaking position coach.
Yeah.
So, at that age with that kind of ego, who's not going to say he's going to get cross-eyed one day and say, why am I listening to you? I make more money.
That's what I would do. That's what I would do. I'd be like, I make $4 million. You make 2. Shut your mouth.
A guy I'm really intrigued by is this kid named Mateen Iger. I'm going to butcher this name. Ibergoba, who started out of Clarksburg, Maryland. He was a smaller kid, 6'4", about 230 coming out of high school. Went to Georgetown, put on a little weight, and put up some stats after 2 years. Went to Wake Forest. Now he's up to 295. Put some good stats up. Now he's going to Texas Tech. This is a kid who wasn't even a 2-star. He was a no-star. And now he's going to get paid. And quite frankly, if he puts up good numbers again, we may be talking 2027, 2028 draft of him being a first or second rounder. And I think that's a kid people should keep their eye on next year. A kid that went from nowhere, a lot like these kids that you saw are going to be playing on Monday night that were in Indiana. They ended up at JMU or Kent State. Look where he's at today.
Right. And it's going to be, it's going to be weird seeing all these different guys. We've got thousands and thousands of guys in the portal. The portal essentially closed on Friday, and there is still thousands and thousands of guys in the portal. So I bet some of them will get, the ability to come back and go to where, go back to where they came from. But some of them are not. You enter that portal, a lot of the times the team that you played for is like, hey, you're gone, you're moving on, we're moving on from you, and then you have nowhere to go. So I really feel like this is a mistake for a lot of these guys. They think they're just going to go to the portal and make tons of money, and that's not the case. There's not enough spots. It's musical chairs. You're marching around talking about how great you are and how much money you want, and then a lot of the times the music stops and you don't have a chair to sit in. So very, very interesting to see what happens to some of these guys. Whether or not they go to a smaller program, try and work their way back up, we don't know. But, not only do we have players moving around, we got coaches moving around. First one I want to talk about is the first guy that got hired. As I always tell you, a very good way to see what type of coach someone is when they get fired, how long does it take for them to get a new job? Well, with James Franklin, what did it take? About 2 weeks? Before he was hired on at Virginia Tech. I think this was the perfect place for James to go. I love him there. I get a lot of Vandy vibes, in a way, but I also get a lot of other vibes considering this is a program that was once very well thought of. And I think James can bring them back to maybe not to where they were, but very, very close. What do you think about the fit of James Franklin at Virginia Tech?
It's a good fit. I mean, honest to God, it's the same recruiting footprint, which he has a good handle on. I mean, hell, he grew up in the area. And now, I mean, you look back at the best years that Frank Beamer had, what did he do well in? He recruited the DMV and Hampton Roads really, really, really well. And what's this guy do in both cases? Recruit both those areas really, really well. And it's going to be interesting to see what he could do in a conference that's not nearly as strong as the Big Ten. He doesn't have to worry about playing Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, whoever it is. I mean, his hardest game, his rivalry game is going to be against UVA. Guess what? That's a hell of a lot easier than playing Ohio State.
No doubt. I think he's going to do well. I don't know about year one per se, but I do think this Virginia Tech team is going to be a lot better in year one than they were here in 2025. Talk to me about Auburn. This is a school that has now changed coaches a number of times in the past several years. It's like they just expect to win a national championship every year when, I don't know if their roster has really allowed for that, for them even to compete for a national championship. So they've fired, another coach. They've moved on once again. This is a team, we talked about LSU moving on from a national championship coach. Gene Chizik won a national championship in 2010. He was fired less than a year and a half later. Gus Malzahn was there for around 8 seasons, did a pretty good job, but they wanted to fire him every year. Since Gus Malzahn, we've had Kevin Steele taking over as the interim in 2020. We've had Brian Harsin there for 2021, 2022. We've had Cadillac Williams there for an interim. We had Hugh Freeze there. We had DJ Durkin there. I mean, there's been a lot of change going on. What do you think about Alex Golesh and the fit of him at Auburn?
You look at what he did, not only at Tennessee, but at South Florida, not only from a style standpoint for their offense, but then you look at how he recruited in South Florida. He really changed it. I mean, because too many people try to get too cute in South Florida. You got to do the Highway 5 recruiting trip. And he really mastered that and really took that team to a whole new level. I think it's a good fit. I think the real question is, I think DJ Durkin has got to do a hell of a job as DC there, as he's done in the past, because it's going to take a little bit of time for that offense to develop, even though Golesh brought his quarterback with him, and Bryce Brown.
Yeah, I do think that's a good move. You've got a guy that knows your system, at least for year one. You can put him out there and roll with him. I got to be 100% honest about Alex Golesh. Since he left Tennessee in 2022, the year of Hendon Hooker and Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman and all the boys that played on that 2022 Tennessee team that was, up in competition for the national championship, the Tennessee offense has not looked the same ever since he's been gone. And I think that's a very good measuring stick for how good of a coach he is, how good of a play caller he is. I think this guy will score some points at Auburn, which has been a problem for them the last few years. Their defense has been good, but their offense has sucked. And I think he'll turn that. I do think he'll turn that offense around, James. Let's go to another coach here who's taken over a program that, has had some, ups and downs, more downs than ups, but, they've had a guy in place there. We didn't really think he was going to, leave this year, but they decided to move on from Stoops. And now, they brought in the young, he looks like he's 12 years old, Mr. Stein from Oregon. He's gotten himself a good portal class. I think Kentucky has proven that they want to win and they want to compete because they're pumping money into the portal right now. They're bringing in some pretty good players, and I think this guy's proven that he's a pretty good play caller. What do you think about Stein to Kentucky, James?
I like him as a coach. I'm not sure the fit because, this is a Texas guy, went to Oklahoma, and now he's going to bring his offense, which is a radical shift than what you saw at Stoops in Lexington before. I think it's going to take a little more time than people realize, but as far as a football mind, yeah, he's a good football mind, but does he have the recruiting basis on the ground to really make it as quickly as possible?
Right.
I don't know.
I don't either. And these guys that are coordinators and have never been head coaches, we're not sure what to expect until they get in place. Now, he will have Kenny Minchey coming in to be his quarterback, the kid from Notre Dame, who I like and I think was a good pickup. They also got the Marshall quarterback, Kai Long, who is going to serve as the backup. They picked up Tegra Teshbala, the offensive lineman out of Ohio State. Nick Anderson, a wide receiver from LSU. They've done some good things in the portal and brought in 27 transfers, the number 9 rated transfer class. I think they've shown at least that they want to win, and that's more than I can say for Kentucky football in the past. So we do need to give them a little bit of credit there.
I'm amazed he was able to do that as well as being an offensive coordinator for Oregon during the playoff. That getting 27 guys in with that plus hiring a coaching staff, man, that's a lot of freaking work.
That is. I want to talk too about a guy we both know pretty well, and that is our boy Pat Fitzgerald. God, I loved watching this guy play football for Northwestern.
Oh, yes.
Man, that was so much fun, and I loved him coaching at Northwestern. This is going to be a different animal. He's been away from the game for a little while. His last 2 years at Northwestern didn't go as well. I still like the hire, but there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. Jonathan Smith was up there at Michigan State only for 2 years. Our boy Mel Tucker had 1 good year, and then they set his ass up to get fired. Let's just be honest. They set him up. They put him on a phone sex call and then fired his ass just to get him out of there. And now they've moved on to Pat Fitzgerald. What do you think the chances are of Pat having success in the first 2 years? And are they going to be patient with him here for the long haul?
That's going to be the interesting thing because Michigan State does have cash. People don't realize. Ishbia, who used to be a former basketball player at Michigan State when they won their national title back in, 2000 with Mateen Cleaves. He's a huge donor in that. And it's if they can give him time, Pat Fitzgerald's found ways to win. I like what they're doing there. He's a good coach and he's won, but people are going to go back to the last couple of years at Northwestern. And I'm like, come on, guys, you got to look at the whole piece of pie, not just, that little segment. Cause there's a lot of coaches you could sit there and, cherry pick stuff out of too as well. Hell, Lou Holtz's last 2 years at Arkansas went on to go to Minnesota and win national champion at Notre Dame. You could go on and on.
Yeah, you like Lou Holtz way more than I do. I can tell you that. I am not a fan of Daffy Duck, and let me tell you one thing: I could have won the national championship with that Notre Dame team. They were freaking talented everywhere. But that I also say that just because I hate Daffy Duck in his mouth.
What are you talking about?
Guy's talking shit to Ohio State every year. He hasn't beat them since 1936. But he runs his mouth every year and then gets mad when Ryan Day calls him out. I'm still confused about that one.
And he coached there. He was a coach there with Woody Hayes.
Yeah, I think he's should have been taken to the rest home a long time ago. But yeah, I'm going to be interested to see what Pat Fitzgerald does at Michigan State. This is a program, James, that's had a lot of success, but not recently. And we're going to see what he can do there. I want to get your thoughts. We got a couple more here. We got to get out of here. Mr. Sumrall at Florida. Florida is a team that since, Urban Meyer got there and won 2 titles, They seem to think that they are going to play for the national championship every year. And, just think of the coaches that they have had over the last, however many years. They've been rolling through coaches there in Florida, in Gainesville. If you just go back, trying to think, the list of their head coaches over the last few years. I mean, Will Muschamp took over after Urban Meyer in 2011. They had DJ Durkin, also was an interim coach there. They had Jim McElwain. They had Dan Mullen, Billy Napier. None of these guys worked out, James. Why, in your mind, did none of these guys work in the long term? Because two of them, Jim McElwain and also Will Muschamp, both won SEC Coach of the Year. Dan Mullen took them to an SEC championship. Why did none of these guys work long term for Florida?
Because the freaking fan base is crazy. Their booster base is insane. I mean, it is when you've got too many cooks in the kitchen, you have no cooks in the kitchen. And the one thing I got to say I like, and it's getting back to when Urban Meyer, there's some symmetry between Urban Meyer when he left Utah to come here and Summerall leaving Tulane to come here. I've liked Summerall. This guy is a coach, but it's the supporting cast that's coming with him. And him hiring Buster Faulkner, the offensive coordinator at Georgia Tech, I thought was a masterclass job. This guy can coach. This is going to be a great move for him because, let's be honest, Florida has been schizophrenic on offense for some time. Like, you don't know what the hell you're going to get from moment to moment. I mean, hell, somebody's shoe could get thrown down the field for all we know. I mean, it's been that kind of crazy since Urban Meyer's left Gainesville. But Buster Faulkner is a hell of a job. But more importantly, I think their player personnel, they brought in a professional in Dave Caldwell. This guy's got NFL experience on how to understand and evaluate players. And in the transfer portal era, I think you're going to see guys like that become more and more popular and a bigger focus, kind of like the strength coach. I mean, you look at Vanderbilt right now. I go back to, oh, God, what's his name? The player personnel guy. He used to be head of 24/7 recruiting before he went to Vanderbilt. Give me a moment here. It's his name is on the tip of my tongue.
Barton Simmons is who you're talking about.
You got it. Barton Simmons, who is another one of those masterclass kind of evaluators. This is what makes me excited about the Gators moving ahead. And especially Florida State, with Miami playing as well as they are right now, better up their game quick. Otherwise, they could be falling behind very fast.
I agree. And, talking about that is leads me to our next coach here, who I think is going to, have a lot of success, in my opinion. Maybe, being a head coach, obviously he doesn't have a ton of experience with, but this is a guy who has proven that he can recruit and that he can develop talent, and that's Brian frickin' Hartline. I'm kind of surprised that this is where he chose to go. But also I think it may have been a pretty good strategic move. Think of the guys he's brought up out of the state of Florida over the last few years. Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith. We could go on with the amount of dudes he's brought up out of the state of Florida. He knows the area. He can recruit the area. He did a pretty good job this year, honestly, as the offensive coordinator. And, so far, so good in the portal. This guy has proven that he can recruit, that he can identify talent, that he can go out and get it. So I don't know, dude. I feel like he's going to have success there with South Florida. What do you think about Brian Hartline taking over down there in Tampa?
Well, there's a statement the old ball coach used to make, flapping around with his visor way back in the day prior to Urban Meyer coaching at in Gainesville, where you can get a recruiting class just going up and down 10 exits off college. And you can't tell me that doesn't sound a lot better for Heartline to go up and down I-5 or down to Miami and Dade County and Broward County to pick up a recruiting class, because there's speed galore and this man loves speed. But more importantly, you look at his coaching staff with Brian Hartline as his quarterback coach and Tim Beck, who he's worked with prior at Ohio State. They know what they want to do offensively, and I think the identity was built in place long before he picked this job. I think this was a masterful move on Hartline's part in taking this job. It's going to be easier for him to win quickly than it would be someplace else.
Yeah, Mike Hartline's coaching quarterbacks. Tim Beck is the offensive coordinator, as you mentioned. I like Elijah Brooks, the running backs coach. Not to mention they brought in James Laurinaitis to be a part of this team. And I really do think he's set up for success. I also like what he's done in the portal. Just in year one, bringing in Michael Van Buren, the quarterback out of LSU. I mean, he didn't just go and get small school dudes here to bring in guys from USF. He got a number of players. He got Cade Catton, the tight end out of Oregon. He brought in C.J. Hicks from Ohio State. He took some guys down with him. Bryson Rogers from Ohio State. He got some guys from Florida, some few players from Duke and West Virginia. He also brought Luke Kromenek from, I think he was at Mississippi State last year. Grayson Howard from Florida. I like the moves this guy has made, and I do think he's got a great eye for talent and is going to do a really good job down in USF. So I wish him all the best. I wish he would have decided to do this either before or after signing day, but whatever. We all knew it was coming. So good luck, Mr. Hartline. A couple more here real quick. I love how Penn State went through 9 choices and then acted like their first choice was the guy that took the job. I do like Matt Campbell. I think he did a phenomenal job at Iowa State. However, we've got to remember that Campbell never really hit the home run on any of these years. He did, as I mentioned, I love what he did. I think he did a phenomenal job at Iowa State. But now he's going to be expected to win the Big Ten, James. Now he's going to be expected to play for a national championship every year. I don't know how he does that, especially in year one with basically his Iowa State team coming with him to the Nittany Lions. What do you think about Matt Campbell, and what do you think about the pressure that's going to be on him?
I like him, but he's got to think differently than being the hunter rather than now he's going to be the hunted. Just having that freaking Nittany Lion on your shoulder is a different animal itself. Just because of the tradition you have there. I think it's going to take a bit to make that transition. I mean, Grant's going to help a lot that a lot of the Penn State Cyclones are going to be playing next year. I wonder if they're going to change out the non-conference schedule to put like Northern Iowa on there too as well, just to make it feel more like at home. But I think, honestly, I'm more interested in year 2, how he can get that cycle in there, because the thought process has got to change completely. You're going from being a hunter to the hunted, because no matter how hard it is, let's be honest, Iowa State was always the little engine that could. I mean, this is a city that doesn't even have an airport. You got to fly kids into Des Moines and drive them up 45 minutes to Ames to see the campus. They're not even the biggest school in their state. That's Iowa. They're always second place in a lot of people's minds. And what they could do, what they did was amazing. Now he goes from being the little engine that could to being the biggest player in the state. And that's a different animal. And is he up for it? We'll see.
We'll see. Now, they lost a lot of talent too, buddy. This Penn State team was loaded with talent this year. That's one of the reasons that James Franklin was fired, because they lost 3 games and then got rid of his ass. And now a lot of these guys have moved on. And, Ethan Grunkmeyer moved on, went to Virginia Tech. I think if he had stayed, I would give Campbell a little bit more credit because I was pretty impressed with the way he played after he was thrust into action. Chaz Coleman went to Tennessee. A lot of these guys have moved on as far as the talented players from Penn State. Some of them have also entered the draft. So he's going to be starting from scratch and, losing 47 guys just in the portal, losing all those guys he did to the draft who are out of eligibility, and then throwing Rocco Becht out there and expecting to win the national championship, I think may be kind of a wishful thinking. Don't you, James?
Well, I mean, hell, they got the job hired so late. They only got 2 guys signed at recruiting on their first recruiting cycle. So, yeah. I mean, whatever you get in the second cycle is kind of like a bonus, but you're really playing for next year just because they got such a late start.
Yeah. I've got a question for you. Who is Tavita Pritchard?
Oh, he was a quarterback at Stanford. And when I heard he got hired, I was like, okay, what's going on here? Yeah, I mean, he knows the program, but let's be honest, Stanford's a different school than it was when it was in the Pac-12. And I mean, this may be one of the dumber hires I've seen. I truly give it a D, honestly.
I do too. You move on from several coaches in a row, and obviously some scandal over there. And this is where you go. Some guy that was an assistant at Stanford for several years, and then was the quarterbacks coach for the Commanders the last 2 years. I don't know, man. I don't know how they came up with this, but I got to be honest. I think this may be a continuation of problems for the Stanford program, which is sad because think of all the success that Jim Harbaugh had. Think of all the success that give me his name. I'm losing it now. The guy that took over
David
Jim Harbaugh.
David Shaw.
Yeah. I think he was a great coach and did a lot of good things. And so, I don't know if this helps or not. Lastly, obviously, moving from JMU to UCLA, is this guy, Mr. Chesney, is he the one that can finally get UCLA back on the map?
This guy is a hell of a coach.
I love him.
I mean, the only thing that shocks me is this is a radical culture shift from East Coast to West Coast. Does he know anyone in Southern California to recruit? I mean, his whole base was on the Northeast. Like honestly, when this came up, I really thought Penn State should have hired him. He was a logical fit, or hell, Virginia Tech before Franklin. I mean, I would have taken Chesney before Franklin because I think he's that kind of a talent. But going to UCLA, does he know the environment? I mean, if there was ever a time if I were him, I'd hire an Ed Orgeron. It would be now because he needs those recruiting chops down in Santa Monica and Westwood. So,
yeah, I agree. I love this guy. I love his coaching ability. I love his ability to develop everything. But this is a guy who, spent his entire career right there in the same region at Johns Hopkins, at Holy Cross, at James Madison. This is kind of a weird pairing, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
Putting him out there in Los Angeles. But, desperate times call for desperate measures. All right, James, what do you got for the score tonight tomorrow in the national championship? I got a bug in my office. I don't know if anyone saw it fly up my nose while James was talking, but there is a bug in the 4th floor of a high rise here somehow. I don't know where it came from, but if I see it again, I'm going to smash it. Who do you got tomorrow, and what's your score prediction, James?
30-24 Hoosiers.
All right. I like it. I'm going to go a little bit lower scoring. I'm going to go 24-19 Hoosiers.
And that would be the end of the 25-26 football season.
Yeah, but we've got obviously we have some other things coming up with the transfer portal, the recruiting, the draft, and then also we've got the Senior Bowl. We've got a lot of things to discuss here in the next couple of weeks, but very sad that college football is coming to an end and the season is closing the door for 2025-2026. James, keep your chin up. I will talk to you again real soon, and thank you to everyone for tuning in to Man Coverage.